Berlin's skyline shimmered in the cold morning light as luxury cars rolled into the glass-front headquarters of Lux Tech, Germany's most prestigious AI company. Inside, polished marble floors reflected the power suits and whispered ambition that filled the air. At the center of it all was Clara Reinhardt, the 32-year-old billionaire CEO known for her sharp tongue, her flawless taste, and her refusal to tolerate mediocrity. She arrived in a white Porsche Taycan, stepping out in a tailored black trench coat, heels clicking like a metronome of dominance. Clara had built her empire from her father's crumbling company and turned it into a European tech titan. People feared her, admired her, and envied her, but no one ever challenged her. That was about to change. In the same building's maintenance corridor, Daniel Weber, a 35-year-old single father, adjusted his janitor's uniform. His daughter, Lena, 7 years old, was waiting at a nearby table with her homework spread out. Daniel worked night shifts cleaning Luxotech's offices while trying to save enough to put Lena into a good school. Life hadn't been kind. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving him with bills, heartbreak, and a child who only smiled when he spoke in silly accents. Today, he'd been asked to fill in for a sick worker during the day shift. That meant he'd have to mop floors while high-heeled executives strutted by without seeing him. But he didn't mind. He had learned to move quietly in a world that looked right through him. Fate, however, wasn't in a quiet mood. Clara was hosting a VIP investor meeting that morning. Everything had to be perfect: the coffee temperature, the lighting, even the scent of the air. Daniel, unaware of her meeting, was cleaning near the glass conference room when he accidentally bumped into a cart, spilling a cup of water. The splash reached the edge of Clara's expensive beige coat. Her sharp voice sliced through the silence. "Verdammt, can't you watch where you're going?" Daniel froze. Every executive in the room turned to look. The billionaire's blue eyes locked on him like laser beams. "Who even let you in here? Do you understand anything I'm saying?" She snapped in German, assuming, as most did, that the janitor couldn't. For a moment, Daniel's mind raced. He could apologize in broken English, mumble, and disappear like always. But something inside him, the exhaustion, the endless disrespect, rose to the surface. He straightened, met her gaze, and replied in flawless, native-sounding German. "Actually, Frau Reinhardt, I understand you perfectly. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't speak to people like they're dirt on your designer shoes." The room went dead silent. Clara's expression flickered: shock, confusion, then anger. "Excuse me." Daniel calmly placed the mop back in the bucket. "You're excused. But maybe next time, instead of shouting at someone for an accident, you could try being human." He turned to leave. Gasps followed him. A few investors exchanged looks, impressed by his composure. Clara, speechless for the first time in years, stood frozen as the door closed behind him. For the rest of the meeting, her confidence wavered. She couldn't focus on numbers or projections. Who was that man? His pronunciation had been flawless, Berlin dialect, even. She'd assumed he was just another immigrant janitor. Her cheeks burned at the thought. That night, Clara couldn't shake it off. For someone used to total control, being confronted in her own language by someone she'd dismissed was unsettling. She opened her laptop and looked through staff files. When she found his name, Daniel Weber, she froze again. He wasn't just a janitor. He had a master's degree in mechanical engineering from the Technical University of Munich. He'd once worked in robotics research until his wife's accident forced him to quit and take lower-paying jobs to care for his daughter. Clara closed her laptop slowly, her reflection staring back at her. For the first time, shame replaced pride. The next morning, she went to the maintenance floor herself. Workers stopped mid-task as they saw their CEO stepping off the elevator. Daniel was at the far end, fixing a broken vacuum. "Clara Reinhardt doesn't come down here," someone whispered. She approached quietly. "Mr. Weber," she said, her voice softer than before. He looked up, surprised. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology," she said. "I was rude yesterday. It was uncalled for." Daniel stood, wiping his hands. "Apology accepted." She hesitated. "You speak German like a professor. May I ask, why are you working here?" He shrugged. "Life happens. My daughter's education costs more than my pride." That answer hit her like a blow. She saw the quiet resilience in his eyes, the same fire she'd once needed to rebuild her company. You mentioned you worked in engineering before. Yes, robotics. I led a small team once. But, priorities changed. Clara paused, her business instincts kicking in. We have a problem in our new robotics division. A software issue that's delaying production. Maybe you could take a look. Off the clock, if you want. Daniel hesitated. I don't want charity. This isn't charity, she said quickly. It's opportunity. He looked at her for a moment and nodded. All right, I'll take a look. That evening, in a dim lab surrounded by prototypes, Daniel got to work. His hands moved with the precision of someone who hadn't forgotten what he loved. Clara watched silently as he debugged a system that her top engineers had failed to fix for weeks. Within an hour, the robot's arm moved smoothly. She stared in disbelief. You just solved a problem that cost us thousands. Daniel smiled faintly. Sometimes the solution isn't complicated. People just stop looking in the right place. For the first time, Clara smiled too. You're remarkable. He chuckled. Just a janitor, remember? Her expression softened. Not anymore. Over the next few weeks, Daniel's quiet brilliance spread through the company. Engineers started asking for his input. Investors took notice when production efficiency improved. Clara made him a technical consultant, with flexible hours so he could still pick up his daughter from school. Lena, his daughter, became a regular visitor in Clara's office. She'd draw pictures for her father while Clara reviewed reports. One day, as Lena showed her a crayon drawing of a robot family, Clara asked softly, "Do you like robots, Lena?" Lena grinned. "Papa says robots are like people. You just have to program them to be kind." Clara's heart melted. Your papa's right. Weeks turned into months. The icy CEO and the humble janitor found an unexpected friendship built on respect, and something else neither dared name. Clara began visiting Daniel and Lena at a small cafe after work. She listened to his stories of raising a child alone, of nights when he thought he couldn't go on. And Daniel began to see a different side of her, the woman behind the cold perfection. She confessed how lonely it was at the top, how she'd spent years proving she wasn't just a spoiled heiress. One snowy evening, after another successful product launch, they walked together outside the building. Snowflakes caught in Clara's hair as city lights shimmered behind her. You know, she said quietly, I used to think fluency meant speaking perfect German, English, French, but you taught me it's something else. He looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? Fluency, she said, smiling, is the ability to speak kindness in any language. Daniel's breath caught. That's the most beautiful thing I've heard in years. They stood there in silence, snow falling softly, both realizing how far they'd come from that humiliating first encounter. Months later, Daniel was promoted again, this time as head of the robotics division. Clara announced it at a press conference, smiling proudly beside him. Reporters murmured when they learned his story, the janitor who became an engineer again, the billionaire who learned humility. After the cameras turned off, she leaned closer and said quietly, You changed the way I see people. He smiled. And you changed the way I see myself. Their eyes met, no words, just understanding. As they left the stage, Lena ran up, holding their hands on each side. Clara laughed, and for once, she didn't look like the feared CEO of Lux Tech. She looked like a woman who'd finally found peace. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the city, a janitor's mop leaned forgotten in a corner, replaced by a